Hello, wonderful world. It's Jennifer here at Eureka Astrology and Healing, and today we're going to be talking about the astrology of the Pisces full moon. The Pisces full moon is August 30th, 2023 at 8:35 p.m. Central Standard Time. Adjust your clocks accordingly, so to speak, if you're in a different time zone, because it'll be different for everybody. And as always, this is a general forecast for the energies before, after, during, and I always get the imprint. This video might be a little loud. I have trumpets playing and cars going by. It's just kind of a bustling, very mercurial kind of a day. So I apologize if there's sounds that are a little loud at times. And with that, taking note of that it is a general forecast. This is a general forecast also in the sense that if you want to know more, you can always reach out to me, because it's going to be unique for you in your chart and where the placements are. And all these planets have different meanings and different energies for everyone. I don't want to say different, but how one person does Mercury may be different than another person does Mercury, experiences Mercury retrograde. And I'm actually going to talk a little bit about that. I've kind of had some insights and intuition into this fact that yes, these planets have archetypes and overall energy patterns, but everyone has their own placement and they experience it differently because of their personal experience with the planet. That being said, let's get into some of the notables. So Mercury is retrograde in Virgo, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But this is a big, I think, focal point, because I feel like right now when I'm making this is 2 weeks before, and the planet is slowing down, Mercury's slowing down, and I can tell how rough communication is already getting even before it has gone retrograde. And maybe it's because it's slowed down, but I think we're going to be in for a lot of miscommunication in this time frame of this Mercury retrograde, and I think it's going to be a little bit more than normal. I'll tell you why in a bit. Venus is still retrograding for a little bit longer, at least till October, and so still reviewing what we value, what we desire, what we love. And it's really kind of hunkered down. It's made some aspects to Jupiter and just kind of expanding our what's our value to ourselves in our expression. Still kind of themes coming out, and also potentially with romance and relationship as well. Venus does have a hand in some of those matters, but so does Mars, and Mars has just moved into Libra not too long ago, and I feel like that's also going to be playing an effect. It's like, what are you going for, not what you desire, like what do you want in that relationship, how do you want to get that balance? And it might even be a little martial like in that form. And those are the main notables. I really went with this chart and I looked at some Arabic parts and points, and I'm trying to do this one a little more freestyle. Usually I have things written out a little bit better, so bear with me if this is a little less flowy than others, but I got a lot of insights while meditating on some of this stuff and just kind of a little bit intuitive hits. And so with this chart, first and foremost, it is a full moon. So the moon and the sun are opposed each other, the furthest they can be from each other. So the moon is in Pisces and the sun is in Virgo, and so I should just note, happy Virgo season, right? The sun has just been there for a few days now at the point of this this full moon. And so it's an earth sign, right? Things are starting to slow down. We had that hot fire of the Leo sun, and now it's kind of like, hey, time to reap, time to harvest, time to get ready for winter. Yes, trying to prepare a little bit. Like the fun, I don't want to say is gone, but it's going to seem maybe a little less playful, a little less fun. Just think about going back to school. There's no more vacations for most people, things of that nature in the Northern Hemisphere. Of course, this is for the Northern Hemisphere, but things get just a little more serious, and that kind of speaks to Virgo's nature. And it doesn't mean that Virgo can't have fun, but I think that energy first goes, hey, let's get it done. Let's get the job done before we go and blow off, some steam. Like, we cannot leave this be because winter's coming. Like if you want to live, if you want to survive, or if you want to feel comfortable slightly in winter, you got to be getting things done. And so that's that energy, and the sun's shining in, where we can start to organize, prepare, and maybe even repair, and be kind of critical and kind of like discerning about what's going on around us too. Like maybe things have to get dropped. Like, I don't need that for winter anymore. I don't need that relationship. I don't need that material. I don't need, that job, you name it. And it's going to be different for everybody in their charts. And with the moon, though, that's a totally different area. It's like, let's not think about the details. Let's not fix everything. Let's just let everything be as it is. All is one. And so that's where those energies are kind of opposing. each other. And so I was thinking a little bit about that, and I looked at the Sabian symbol too for those degrees, and it's interesting, both had the message of retreating, like pulling in and pulling away from reality. And normally there's some kind of commonality between the two, but yet a difference, and there's a difference between them, but it's like, it's saying there's like, this is a time to retreat a little bit and pull in from reality. And now when I first heard that, I was like, oh, that's I mean, maybe people will be retreating from reality, and that with a full moon, that could not be good if you get lost away from, like, when you pull yourself out of reality, you're usually not grounded, and you could get lost in wherever you're pulling yourself into. So be cautious of this on the full moon. For sure, that could be a little bit more of the shadow side or the unfun part, like putting your head in the sand or just becoming so ungrounded that you no longer have a center point. But on the other part of it, right, this is also very Virgoing, like pulling into, like trying to like focus. There can be focus, and it's kind of being called to kind of reject compromise, terms, just all the things that society kind of has, limitations, and kind of believing in yourself and like trying to break forward and move forward in a new way. But you're pulling in first, you know, to really get that, to get that insight, not going like asking a person like, what should I do, or consult the internet or consult whatever. It's like, I'm going in. I think of the shamanic journey. I mean, that's a very Piscean, and potentially we're going into just like, where is that information coming from within, but it's really throughout as well, because it's being connected to everything. That's the Pisces part of it, right? So maybe utilizing it in a positive way. Where do you need to break free from some of these limitations in your life? It's a good time to work with that, as long as you stay grounded. I always promote being grounded. And so speaking of that, I'm going to kind of weasel my way into that Mercury retrograde in Virgo. So it's not conjunct the sun, they're further away, but it's there. And as I'm saying this now, I did a little meditating on this, and so Mercury is super happy in Virgo. It's at home, it's exalted, it's happy, it's you know, we should be getting information like right now. I mean, even though it's slowing down, and understanding it and going, things clicking and getting the details, getting things done, but I'm seeing quite the opposite. And I think it's because it is slowing down. But when a planet is at home and feeling great and feeling good, it doesn't have to try very hard, right? It's just doing it naturally, right? Like, I don't have to exercise that hard. I can run 10 miles and it hardly hurts me. But when it slows down and the energy kind of builds, and then as it goes into the retrograde, it says it's backwards. And I know technically it's close to the Earth, but there's so much coming in. It's not used to that much, I don't want to say chaos, and that much energy, and that much lack of focus, because there's so much coming at it, that it's kind of stunned. And kind of in a little bit of state of a shell shock, and there's just too much going on with there's not enough focus, and also just like, oh, I don't know how to prepare for this because I'm so used to being good at this. And where I came from this point is that I actually have Mercury stationed in Pisces in my birth chart, which is like about as bad as it gets for that planet, because it's like, well, I'm confused, I'm not going anywhere, I can't find direction. But what I've realized is that because I've had that planet in my chart, I've had to work with it. I've chosen to learn to work with it, how to utilize it, look at it positively, but also realizing that how I communicate may not be received by others the way I imagine, or how I learned this early on, is not how other people always learn. And so I had to like almost translate what people were saying to me in my own way in my head, and also make sure that I slow down and clearly communicate things when I want to get things across. So I want to put a little note out there for people who, when they think about, oh, I have a planet in a bad placement, and you know, I'm forever, you know, it's not good. It's like, no, it could be your biggest ally, because it's something that if you take the time to discipline yourself to work with, you can find the gift, because there is a gift with my Pisces, or my Mercury in Pisces. We don't have to go into it right now, but I've disciplined myself on how to overcome those obstacles. And so as Mercury is going retrograde right now, or getting there, slowing down, for me, I have made the extra efforts to communicate, and I'm not always being heard still, but I can tell it's from people who have too much coming at them. And I don't take it personally, but I'm realizing that I think a lot of people during this full moon in these weeks are gonna be like, just the details are gonna be dropped. People aren't gonna hear you. Things, I don't want to say you're gonna be ignored. I don't think it's on purpose. it's just too much for everybody. So like try not to overwhelm your nervous system and information. If you can like just, release and let it go, I totally would right now. The next insight I have, I was making some notes about this, is that, let's see here. See, I had to stop because I didn't write it all out, but I'm kind of going with the flow here. That's the very Mercurial. I was like, how about I just let go? Oh, that's it. There was the hugest theme I got as I was laying awake last night, is surrendering to the things we do not know. And that's kind of harkening back to this full moon with the Mercury retrograde in Virgo. It's like Pisces doesn't need to know. Virgo likes to know for sure, but with Mercury going retrograde, it's kind of questioning. We're going back and we're going to be assessing, reassessing. But I also feel like it's asking us to let go of the fact that we don't always know. And Pisces is usually very happy to do that, but Virgo not so much. And how can we surrender to this? I see this is a very I feel like an important aspect to this full moon is that Saturn is very close to the moon, and it is also retrograde. It's going in it, and so there's like this authority coming at us to be like, hey, first of all, like discipline your emotions a little bit. I want to say like make sure that you have solid boundaries, but also like how can you let go of the things that you don't know and admit like maybe sometimes you're wrong and maybe it's okay to not know. And that can be a very vulnerable place for Virgo, especially in that energy at this time. And so I could see people being really agitated because I'm going to be asked like, hey, you don't know, and you just have to kind of trust and believe, right? That's the moon in Pisces, especially that have that faith and that just like total surrender to the fact that like you can't always know. And I just think that's kind of beautiful, but it can be a little intense for some people. I'm just going to take a look at some of the aspects. Like by far, the aspects with that, that's the most tension between them. And there are some harmonious things. But I also see like there's other stories going on here. We've got the nodes, remember, that have shifted. I could ask you, how is that going for you? Are you feeling like you're taking charge of your life and putting yourself first and maybe being a little courageous even when you're, a little fearful, like stepping out, and like maybe relationships are dropping away, or maybe you're dropping some of your judgment on relationships. Mars just went in to Libra, and so that's kind of a drive, and that's a force inward, not inward, but like a force, like a direct force. And then you've got the South Node draining away. So it's like at the same time you want these relationships, you want the balance, but like there's things that have to be let go with that. So that's another theme that's kind of swirling around here. And then the hard aspect is that the Venus retrograde in Leo, like whichever the desires, squaring Jupiter, which is like material things. And I feel like how we value ourselves could be our undoing, or our subconscious patterns of how material supports us, what material means to us, material goods, wealth, what is true wealth, right? I think this, as we know, this is being questioned every day, but I always say to my son, it's like, well, if the world ended tomorrow and everything was in chaos and you had gold, do you think that you could get what you need to survive? No one wants gold because you can't eat gold. People are going to want water. People are going to want food. They're going to want the things that keep us alive. And that brings us back to that Jupiter and Taurus of like, where are our illusions? Where are they with materials? And do we really realize what we need to value to be on this planet, Taurus? So those are the overall things, but I kept getting the theme of surrendering to what we don't know. And this weaves into the moon, the Raven Caldera's moon phase astrology is this, so it's the full moon, it's the healer's moon. And at this time, it's a good time to honor the healers in your life. I think I talked about this last year, but the healer goes out, and the thing is, the healer is great, but they cannot get wrapped up in ego. And if there's somebody or something that they cannot heal, and that's kind of very of the Virgo side, like I need to fix this, they have to accept they may not be able to fix it and be able to move on, to surrender and realize that they cannot fix everything. And sometimes things are as they are. And then they might take it personally. Doesn't think about it, a doctor who takes it personally when someone dies. It's like, you didn't kill them, unless, I guess if they actively kill them, but, in general, it does not happen that way. They do their best that they can. They're there, they're caring, they're working hard, and the situation unfolds as it unfolds. And this is the constant thing that I'm getting. Things are going to unfold, and be open to what comes and try not to control too much. And, I didn't put it in the notables, but at this time I'm looking here at my little chart. Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, and Chiron, and it looks like Uranus may even be stationing retrograde at this moon. So it's a lot of inward energy, and it's a lot of reassessment, but it's also about not moving forward. I talked about this earlier in some of my previous videos. Like, fall's a time for kind of going in and figuring it all out. It's not that we won't get to go forward, but trying to take direct action every which way might feel like roadblocks here, there, and everywhere, depending on, how things line up in your chart. And, I think that's really all I want to say about this. I know there's a lot more aspects, there's a lot more we could go into and delve into, but, I just got those messages of, like, surrendering and, being okay with what we can't control, and being able to reassess, and maybe even reassess how we communicate at this time, because I think there's going to be a lot of miscommunication, and ask yourself why that may be. Maybe it just is because it is, or maybe you're not focusing, or maybe people around you aren't paying attention to you and they're not focused. With that, I'm Jennifer at Eureka Astrology and Healing. If you like what I'm doing, hit like, subscribe, check out my website, Eureka Astrology and Healing. I do astrology readings, birth charts, synastry, the year ahead. I also do health consultation with herbs and tarot readings. And with that, may the plants ground you and the stars guide you. Ciao for now.